Hello, students. We are here in the lab today, not the virtual lab, but the real lab, because we're going to be performing this experiment under lab conditions, and we need the Bunsen burner in order to complete this lab. So let's begin. We're on page 92 of your books, and if you read the problem at the top of the lab page, it says, how can a mixture of water, salt, and sand be separated using physical means? That's opposed to chemical means, which we'll be learning about in the future. So take a moment now. Think about what we've learned about so far this week regarding mixtures and solutions. And think about this question once again. How can a mixture of water, salt, and sand be separated using physical means? Pause the video while you complete your hypothesis. All right, now that you're back, let's proceed with the lab itself. I have set up all of the materials that we need to conduct this lab, and we'll begin with step 2, which is to fill a beaker with 100 milliliters of water. I've already obtained 100 milliliters of water in a graduated cylinder, and I'll be placing it into our beaker at this time. And as we go through this activity, I will be holding the beaker closer to the camera so that you can see and make some observations on your own. So all this is right now in our beaker is 100 milliliters of water. The next step asks us to do the following. It says, please add 2 cubic centimeters of salt, sodium chloride, into the water, stir, and note your observations. So I have already pre-measured the salt. I have placed it into our beaker and am now stirring it, as you can see. And notice what is happening as I stir the salt into the water. I think you can see it pretty well there. And I will continue to stir the salt until it is completely dissolved into the water. Think about what I am forming if one substance dissolves in another substance. And think about what each of these substances can be called using vocabulary words. The water has just dissolved the salt. The salt has been dissolved in the water. Note your observations. Feel free to pause the video as you note your observations below. All right, we're back for the next step, step 4, which is to add the sand. And notice what sand looks like. It's just playground sand. We're adding the sand into the mixture of salt and water, dumping that all in. And ooh, listen to that grinding noise as I try to stir and dissolve the sand into the mixture of salt and water. As you may be able to see, the sand is not doing the same thing as the salt did. The sand, even though I am trying vigorously to stir with the stirring rod, the sand itself is not dissolving. And notice the contents, all the sand on the bottom of the beaker has separated very easily from the salt and the water. But feel free to pause the video and note your observations. All right, we're back. And now we are on step 5. We're going to decant and filter. we're going to decant and filter the contents from beaker A into beaker B at this time. And you'll notice we have a ring stand apparatus set up here. We've got beaker B below, and on the ring stand, we've got a ring which will support the funnel directly over beaker B, and I have some filter paper. I am going to fold the filter paper as per the instructions from the Lab Techniques video, starting with a full moon, folding it into a half moon with a crack down the middle. You take the half moon and fold it again to get a quarter piece, like a quarter of a pizza pie. Take your pinky finger and stick it in the crack so that one layer is beneath and 3 layers are above. Pinch the point of the cone, and you will have formed a cone-shaped filter paper that is not open on the bottom, but closed on the bottom to make it an effective filter. And now we're going to take the contents of the beaker A, and we are going to place the stirring rod into the center of the filter paper. And just as I demonstrated in the previous video, we're going to decant and filter at the same time. Now, when you're doing this in a laboratory situation, you always want to be careful not to take your mixture and pour it in so heavily and so forcefully and so that it overflows the filter paper, because if it does that, it's just going to flow around the filter paper and the filter paper will not have served its purpose. So while I'm decanting, and I know it's difficult to see from this camera angle, I'm going to decant using the stirring rod slowly and carefully, making sure that the liquid inside the filter paper never goes higher than the level of the filter paper itself. That way it won't overflow and we won't accidentally allow any solids to go outside of the filter paper between the filter paper and the funnel. Now, we don't need any more than this. And hopefully you remember what this liquid is called that has come through the filter paper. It is called the filtrate. The filtrate. We don't need too much filtrate for this experiment. But I want you to think right now before we move on. Think about what it is we have separated, if anything, as of now, using physical means of the decanting and the filtering. What, if anything, have we separated from beaker A to beaker B? What, if anything, have we separated using the filter paper and the decanting and the filtering? Think about that as I rearrange the apparatus and get ready for the next step. All right, we're back. Hopefully you made some good observations so far. And now we are on step 6. I've set up a Bunsen burner, ring stand, and evaporating dish. And I'm going to be putting our extra safety goggles on over top of my glasses because we are about to light up the Bunsen burner. And so this is a very important safety. Always remember to wear your goggles. Now, I'm going to be placing no more than 5 milliliters, about a quarter-sized volume of the filtrate into our evaporating dish. We don't need any more than that. Okay? Now, before we begin the Bunsen burner, I want you to think about what might be in that filtrate. Again, think about the process of decanting and filtering. What has been left behind and what has made it through? What do you think we have on the evaporating dish in this small volume of filtrate? And now we're going to begin lighting the burner. I'm going to be lighting the Bunsen burner. If you are doing this yourself, I encourage you to review the video on lighting the Bunsen burner. Remember the steps, the proper steps of lighting the burner so that we can do this safely. And I am working solo here, but normally you would have a safety person at the jet and the burner person at the burner. And the way we should operate the burner is to light it off of the ring stand. Once we have it with a good flame, it is safe to pick up your burner by the base and the tube and then place it under our evaporating dish to make our additional observations. So I'm going to remove the burner right now, and I have already familiarized myself with the unit. Now I'm checking the system to make sure the tubes are tight, the jet and valve are closed, and the collar is closed. Now, system on. I'm opening the gas jet, getting my striker ready, opening the valve, and I'm going to light the burner. Now, as we have our burner lit, you should be able to observe. I'll get out of the way here for a moment. You should be able to observe what type of a flame we have. Is this a good flame or a bad flame? It's a bad flame. And how can we make this flame a good flame? By adjusting the collar. So I'm going to adjust the collar, allowing more airflow into, combine with the fuel. And now we've got a good flame. Maybe you can even hear the roar. And now I'm going to place the burner underneath our evaporating dish, and we're going to observe what happens. Now, to help you observe a little bit better, I am going to pick up the computer so that you can actually get a close-up view of what is happening on top of the evaporating dish. Hopefully you can see that right now. The liquid is quickly evaporating. It is bubbling away like mad. And now I'm going to allow you to make some observations. You can listen. I'll try and hold this steady so you don't get dizzy. Listen and watch for the next couple moments here. I'm going to remove the flame, and I'm going to carefully turn our burner off. And then I'm going to give you a close-up view of what's on our evaporating dish. Hopefully you can see that very clearly. There's a good view. Let me get a good angle here. There. That's a perfect shot of what remains on the evaporating dish. Think about what that white residue might be. Think about why it's there. Think about how it got there. Think about the process of evaporation after we've gone through the decanting and filtering. So, as you are thinking about your observations, record your observations and then write a conclusion to the problem, and we'll have opportunity to discuss this lab activity. For now, I'm going to allow this glass evaporating dish, and by the way, I'm not as close to it as it might appear on the screen, because that glass evaporating dish is very hot. So I'm going to allow it to cool before I clean it off. And so I'd like you to complete your conclusion. Don't forget to study for tomorrow's quiz. And for now, I'm going to say bye-bye.